a recipe for cauliflower bake, which is more of a meal than just cauliflower cheese. So I always find cauliflower it's a bit bland, if I'm honest, and you kind of need to do something more to it to make it interesting, and that normally means putting a cheese sauce on it, which is it's normally a side dish rather than a main dish. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a main dish using the cauliflower. And there tends to be a lot of waste with cauliflower, and I'm going to show you how to utilize pretty much all of the cauliflower. So we're going to put what we're going to do is we're going to prep the cauliflower, and then we're going to utilize all the stalks and all the leaves as well, and the root as well, because there's nothing wrong with that and it's quite tasty. We just have to be a little bit careful around some of these stalks. They get a little bit woody, so we're just going to use the tender ones. So with all the bits of the cauliflower apart from the florets, we're going to saute that down with a couple of onions. So there's about 400 grams of onions. We've got some bacon. I found it in the bottom of the freezer, and it's almost 2 months past its sell. It's almost a year past its sell-by date, but that's not going to worry me because it's been in the freezer. So it's cheap bacon. Oh, it's annoying. It's cheap bacon. It's a bit fatty. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that fat off, and that's we're going to fry the onions and the cauliflower stalks in, and a bit of the garlic, and then what we call it, and then we'll fry the bacon off in the fat first. We'll take that out. Oh no, we'll leave it in. Yeah, so we'll run the fat down, add the bacon, then add the onions, the garlic, and the cauliflower stalks. And we'll prep the cauliflower in a minute so you'll kind of see, and we'll just be left with the ends of the florets. What we're going to do is we'll cook those whole, so they'll be kind of like almost like gnocchis, kind of quite dumplings type of things. We've got some tomatoes which we're going to reduce down a little bit, not after we've cooked the onions and the bacon and the garlic, not at the same time, because I want to reduce these cheap tomatoes. There's quite a bit of water in them. So we're just going to evaporate some of that water off, and it'll just intensify it a little bit more. And then what we'll do is we'll combine all the ingredients together, plus some butter beans as well, which will kind of bulk it out, add a different kind of flavour and texture, which will make it a little bit more interesting. Doesn't have to be butter beans, any kind of beans that you've got. Even if you had a tin of baked beans, you could strain off the juice, and you could use the beans from the baked beans. And then what we'll do is we'll make a white sauce with some milk. I did have it on its side, but it keeps leaking. So we'll make about 1 litre of white sauce. I've got a little bit of beurre manière left, which is just cooked flour and fat, and that thickens up a white sauce instantaneously. And then I'll put a stock cube in with the white sauce, because white sauces can be a bit bland if you don't add a bit of a stock cube. So there'll be a couple of stock cubes going in for about a litre of milk. Normally I use 1 stock cube per pint, so a pint's about half a litre. So there'll be a couple of stock cubes going in there, and then we'll top it with the homemade breadcrumbs that I've got that I fry in oil. I did a dish the other week with those on top, crunched them up on the board, made a mess of the board, but it was really nice on top of the dish. But if you didn't want to use breadcrumbs on the top, you could use cheese. So yeah, I think that's it. So cauliflowers are we're coming towards the end of the British season at the moment, so and we're just about to move on to the French. So it's the back end of it. Can you see where the milk's dripped? So we're running out of English cauliflowers, and the French cauliflowers just aren't quite ready. So prices are fluctuating depending on where you buy them from. I've seen them as expensive as £2 a cauliflower, which is too much. You shouldn't be really spending £2 on a cauliflower, and about £1. So for a decent sized one. So you just kind of hunt around. It's not to buy cauliflower for £2 adds on £1's worth of cost to this dish that you don't kind of need. So I got this for £1, so we're going to cost it at £1. So you just need to be careful, unless you're not really that bothered about spending an extra £1 on the cauliflower. So whip out the stalk there, just to make things just that little bit easier, and then we'll pull off these leaves here, I don't know why people throw these away. They are delicious if you know what to do with them. So these ones in the centre, they're really tender and really kind of quite nice. And these green leaves, it's just like chard or spinach or cabbage, so they're kind of quite nice. That's just a little bit of dappling on the what we call it, the leaf. That's fine. So we'll have all these off here like that, and we'll do it in stages. So I'll kind of show you what I'm not going to do it all in front of the camera, but I'll show you what I'm going to do with each. So the leaves, what we'll do is take them off the stalks, because everything cooks at a different kind of time. So we'll be adding things to the pan in different at different times. I'll show you when we're cooking, but obviously not now. So the leaves will slice like that. They'll cook pretty quickly, pretty instantaneously. So that's what we do with those. Let's have a look at these. So we don't want the ends, because that's where they'll be at one. They might have gone a little bit bad. So we can give a snap. They're a little bit stringy down the bottom, but that only lasts to about there. So that's fine. So take that there. This is the rest of the stalk. That goes in the compost, and then this gets sliced. So it's kind of like celery. And so I just can't see why you'd waste that. There's flavour to it. I'll try a bit. There's flavour to it, so I can't see why you kind of throw that away. You just got to be careful with the ones that I've got like that. You can tell that's going to be thick on the outside. Oh, no, that's not too bad. So I probably won't use that. So that's what you do with those. The root is slightly different. So can you see? As you can see there, that bit there, there's a line. That's the bit we want to get rid of, because that won't be very nice to eat, and that's where all the fibres will be. That's where, if it's going to be tough anywhere, that's where it will be. However, the inside of the root, absolutely nothing wrong with it. So that was the outside. That goes in compost thing. So the rest of that, absolutely delicious, just the same as that. So is there any more bits that we just need to whip off? Just need to whip off that. I mean, you probably think I'm being ridiculous, but I just don't like. Do you know, if you've got pigs, or you've got guinea pigs, or you've got rabbits, by all means, can you feed cauliflower? I don't know. If you can feed, let's just take the example of pigs rather than smaller animals. If you've got pigs, feed all that stuff to the pigs by all means. But if you haven't, I just don't like the waste. So chop that up that same size as we do as the stalks. You'll never, ever, ever taste it. You'll just think, if someone ate it. If someone was eating that, they wouldn't be able to tell. By the time we've cooked that down with the onions, you won't be able to tell the difference. So just need to be a little bit more careful. So we'll go in like that. This is the bit where I need to be careful that I don't start slicing fingers. So more of the root comes out. Same again, we just need to be careful. Slice those bits off like that. That might be a little bit tough. So they go in the compost. That gets chopped up, same as that. And then what we're going to do with the florets is, because we want just that end bit of floret, we're going to slice down like that, and we're going to use all that in the dish as well. So slice down, break the florets up a little bit, so they're kind of like a mouthful kind of size, so we can get a little bit more out of that, like that. So they're like a mouthful size. Same with this one, start slicing. That leaves good. That there. So that's all fine. So we'll slice that bit there. And that's how we're going to prep it. So all the florets decent size. I'll go through it all. You don't need to see it on camera. So all those are a decent size, but we'll just trim that down a little bit. I mean, certainly there's that fashion for doing cauliflower rice. So that's a hell of a lot of cauliflower to waste. Certainly usable food. So that's all edible. and that's going to go in that pile which we're going to saute off with the onions and the garlic and the bacon. So that's it. I'll do the rest of the prep. I'll chop the onions. You don't need to see me chopping onions. You don't need to see me squishing garlic, but we'll do a couple of cloves of garlic. No need for any more. If you haven't got it, doesn't matter. Don't like it, doesn't matter. But certainly, with cooking, there's certain things that you use in cooking that you can't really tell that they're there. But if they're not there, it makes a big difference. So something along the lines of onions. You think there's not that much flavour to onions, but there is. And if you put them in something, they make a difference. If you leave them out, it makes a massive difference to a dish. So a lot of my dishes use lots of onions because there are a really good source of flavour of things. So anyway, carry on with the prep. I'll stop talking, and we'll come back when we're sautéing things off a little bit more interesting. Although that was kind of quite interesting to me anyway. Bacon has fried and has gone crispy, which is like another depth of flavour. So as you can see, this is all the chopped up stalks, and that is the chopped up leaves. So that's all usable, delicious food. So stalks in with the bacon, and then that's the onions and the garlic. So what I'll do, cook those down so they get soft. I'll add a little bit of salt now, which will draw out some of the moisture of the onions. And then we've got a pan of boiling water on the back that's salted, which we're going to cook the florets in. So those in there, and then we'll come back when all these onions are cooked, and we'll just at the last second we'll throw in the leaves from the cauliflower as well. So those in there, as it's not a green vegetable, so we can put the lid on. With cauliflower, it will cook quicker, and we don't need to worry about it losing any greenness, because it's not green, it's white. However, with broccoli, broccoli, same family, broccoli, you would have the lid off. So you probably already know that, but you know, no harm in telling people. Bacon, stalks and onions are cooked. They're taking on a little bit of colour. That's mostly from the bacon. So they're nice and tender and nice and flavourful. I've seasoned them a little bit, salt and pepper. So now's the time to add the leaves from the cauliflower. If we'd have added them earlier, they would have just overcooked, and that's not what we want. So just give those a little bit of a stir around, just like when you're cooking spinach or cabbage in a dry-ish pan rather than boiling it. The heat and the moisture from the vegetables is going to be enough to cook that. So I had to make a little bit of a roux, which is equal quantities of flour and butter. So it was 50 grams of butter, and it was 50 grams of lard actually. So 50 grams of lard and 50 grams of plain flour. So we'll add, shouldn't really do this, this is breaking all the rules. So, but we'll add, you're supposed to add hot milk to it, but I'm not going to make another pan's worth of washing up. So I like cold milk. We'll give it a mix around. If you're going to do it this way, you just need to be a little bit careful, because it wants to burn. So it's a case of turning down the pan, chucking some milk in. It's not, as long as you whisk it and it's got some fat in, it's not going to go lumpy, he says. And if it goes lumpy, we'll just get the blender in it. So a bit more. So as I've already cooked out the roux, we don't need to slowly cook this. We just need to basically bring it up to temperature so it boils, and then it'll be ready to eat. Oh, we need to put some stock cubes in that. So stock cubes. I said 2, didn't we? So 2 stock cubes, which will add flavour. Stock cubes are a really good and cheap way of adding flavour to things. So as you can see, that sauce is thickened up already. I'm not sure I've got enough milk, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. One thing at once. So the stock cubes are fine, they will melt in the heat of the sauce. So we'll let that get to a bit more temperature. That's cooked enough. We'll probably move the sauce to the front. So as you can see here, we've got the butter beans, and we've got the cooked cauliflower. It's quite tender. Cook it as much or as little as you want. So we'll add that into there now. As soon as that's all cooked, we're going to mix it all together. There's loads. I think I might have made about 6 portions, but we'll see when we're all done. And there'll be plenty of leftovers. Maybe another meal. Maybe take some from my mum. So that there, that can live there. And then tin of tomatoes in this pan, not chopped. They are just tomatoes in juice. That's the right one. So what we'll do now is we'll just bring the tomatoes up to temperature, crush them down a little bit, and we'll evaporate off some of this liquid so it's a little bit more concentrated in flavour. That's that. That's fine. Not much juice in there, that's good. For a change. That's the sauce doing. Looking nice and lumpy. Here's what we'll do. God, I feel like I'm cheating. We'll come back when everything's ready, which kind of makes it sound like my sauce is going wrong and I'm buying time so I can fix it off camera. I'm not. And to be honest, I've just done a video about making mayonnaise and it split on me, so I fixed it on camera. So I'm not cheating, I'm just going to turn the camera off. Sauce is ready. Didn't need to put the blender in it, so that's fine. Tomatoes are reduced by about half. So what we're going to do, we'll add the tomatoes onto the other vegetables. Get a spatula so we can get all that sticky goodness out. And then I think this is going to make 6 really good sized portions. But we'll see. Maybe not. Oh no, maybe not. We'll see how we go. So we'll mix this all together. I'll get my hands in there in a second. Move that. There. Oops, nearly. So mix everything together. The tomato's just there for a bit of acidity. So it just works. I don't know why. Oh yeah, well think about Italian dishes where they put a white sauce with cheese with it. So that works really well. So this works really well as well. Everything I put in there was seasoned and it tasted nice. So combined, it's not going to need any more seasoning. So, right, well I'm not going to make a mess of this. I can hopefully live there. I think that's going to be plenty in there. We'll do 2 dishes. I've put one in the freezer, I think. We'll split it between both. Yeah, that's there. That's good 2 portions. That's a good 4 portions. I'll work it all out and say how much I've used of everything. I don't think there's going to be enough sauce for both containers, but it's not particularly a good idea to freeze white sauce anyway. And if you've got beurre manier in the fridge like I do, knocking up a white sauce is not a problem. So that there, that there. That's nice. We probably could have squeezed all of that in there if I really wanted to, but no, it'll be fine. So that out of the way, and then sauce on top. So actually just pack that down a little bit. So that like that, that like that, and then we'll see how much sauce this is going to take. And then you can see that I've smashed up the breadcrumbs, so that's what's going to go on top of this. Yeah, that's good for 4 portions, isn't that? What will happen is that sauce will want to drip down. So got a little bit of sauce left. Yeah, so there's so it was about 800 millilitres of white sauce, so that's going to be enough for both. I'm not going to put that on there because I'm going to freeze that, so that can live out of the way, and that will get used up somewhere else. which is always slightly annoying that I've got leftovers that I need to use. Well, it's not annoying that I've got leftovers that I need to use. It's always nice to have something in the fridge. So, this on here, and then breadcrumbs on top. The breadcrumbs are quite oily because I fried them in oil. So they've still got quite a lot of oil on them, which will be another nice flavouring. But what I'll do, I'll calculate how many breadcrumbs I put on the top. You can put fresh breadcrumbs on. You don't need to put these ones that I've made on top. Or what in the recipe I'll put how much cheese you should put on as an alternative. So just scrape that. So as everything is, force of habit washing hands. So as everything is warm now, it's going to go in the oven for about 45 minutes. And what's that going to do? It's just going to make everything bubble nicely, get really hot, and then give it a little bit of colour on top. The sauce will melt a little bit into the sides and go down. It'll go a little bit crispy on top, and then that'll be lovely. So 180 degrees, 45 minutes. If you're, say if I was going to have that tomorrow, or the one that's out that I'm going to put in the freezer, everything would be cold, so it's going to need like an hour and a half. Start it off a little bit slower at like 150, and then for the last half hour turn it to 180 and give it a blast. So put that in the oven. I can't put it in the oven because the oven's full of other stuff. Not cooking, it's just pans and things. It's just easier to store them in the oven. So I'll put the oven on, get that in the oven, and then we'll see what it's like when it's cooked. Out the oven, and crisped on top. So we'll just cut through the topping, and then we'll get a portion out. No need to move the camera today. Do with a knife, just to tease it away from the edge. There, we'll work out the portions. But I think that's good. That's a good 4 portions, and then there's 2 more that's gone in the freezer. So 6 good portions, depending on how much you want to eat. But so, ooh, maybe not that. Maybe we want this better. That. Oop, there we go. So there we go. Nice and juicy. Breadcrumbs on the top, but cheese would have been just as good. Do you need to see that from another angle? Yeah, well, we'll move the camera, and then we'll see how we go. That wants to be there. So, can we see? There we go. Turning a boring old cauliflower into something a little bit more interesting. And to be honest, if you can bake something in the oven and you can put cheese on top, I'm generally happy.